Thank you, Aristide, for the introduction, and also thank you for inviting me here. I think it's really a great pleasure to be here and be able to work with all those fantastic master students. Why are you laughing? No, I really, to say this in an official frame, I think I really enjoy it to do this, no matter what kind of conflicts we have here and there. I think this is also something that is important for a community to have conflicts. So no, and I think it's really there is a fantastic spirit in the masterclass, and I hope that it will last until tomorrow evening. About the book Architecture of Immaterial Labor, it's something that it's published in German, but I am trying to work on it so that I get a translation into English, because I understand that, of course, it would get a much wider audience. And also Aristide is constantly asking me, when does it come out in English? But it's also, in another way, it's also very interesting for me to be here in Greece, because it's, I think, my, current research focus is shifting, and I'm trying from this historic point of view towards a more contemporary understanding of what is happening. And even though I think that what I present today, which is, I hope that I will be able to present the whole book and all the projects, that this analysis of a specific time frame, which is the 60s and 70s, with its change in economy, and with that a need and change of the architectural practice, that this analysis is already kind of pointing towards what we are experiencing today, but it might be also something that this is still, we need to think that this is 30, 40 years ago, and something else is happening today that we need to adapt in different ways. And so, but still, I think we can learn from what happened at that moment, at that specific moment, for our practice today. This is always also why I'm doing research and why I'm writing. The motto of my book, and I think of all my research, is that this quote from Antonio Negri and Michael Hart. It is a little booklet in German called The Work of Dionysos, published in 1997, which says the world is labor. And no matter how much we agree or disagree with these two writers, I think that this statement is very fundamental to us. The concept of immaterial labor, as I already at one point tried to explain in the masterclass, is kind of appeared here and there in the 1950s, 60s, in the Italian workers' movement, or related to the Italian workers' movement, of whom Antonio Negri is one of these protagonists that came that are still there today, and it is a moment in history after the Second World War where as we will see, the economy had to or did change radically in many ways, and out of that to put it differently, there was a change in economy that was affecting everybody of us in a way that how we were working, how the production process would work. So there was also quite a lot of unemployment in Italy at that time that led to protests. Nowadays we always know the 1960s, or we want to or like to think of the 1960s of something, especially the late 1960s, of something that was always about student revolution, maybe flower power, and avant-garde art. But at the same time, something happened in Italy that and in the rest of Europe. But I think in Italy it was the most strongest thing that happened there. That sometimes you could, or some aspects of it, you could even call a civil war. That there was a strong resistance against this change of economy, but at the same time there were, and out of that, a workers' movement or a movement came up that is very strongly related to, or was always, where students and workers and philosophy professors like Antonio Negri would team up and start to publish things and see the and try to promote also the power that the workers would have in order to change some things. So in this context, immaterial labor was the first time named, and when we speak about architecture of immaterial labor, there is something else that comes up, is that there is a very strong analogy that is spatial, that comes from Mario Tronti, so to speak, the founding father, you could say, for some of this workers' movement in Italy at that time, and he would call this new mode of production the factory of society, and what it does is that it acknowledges that the former factory would be walled. It would have a border around it. And these borders are disappearing, and the factory as such is spilling out into the city. So suddenly the whole city becomes a factory. No matter, and is becoming part of the surplus value production in that sense. And with that also there's something else happening, of course, that the production or labor is no longer only about the production of physical objects, but it becomes more and more about communication, how we are speaking to each other. So each laborer needs to start to perform in one way or the other. So in that respect, in that respect, it's also an important thing to acknowledge that it's not only that now we start to produce things outside the city, but it's also that the aspects of labor that formerly in Marxist terms were non-labor, not included in the definition of labor of Marx, are suddenly, with this concept of immaterial labor, are kind of also embraced or be included in, so to speak. So for example, for feminists, the concept of immaterial labor is very, very important also to include or speak or discuss household work and child care. But also in many other aspects, this is important.